Look at what's already happening with companies you trust. Apple banned public AI tools internally. Samsung banned them after their own engineers leaked source code into one. JP Morgan, Goldman, Citi, Bank of America, every one of them blocked external AI for stuff. Italian and German regulators have stepped in on cross-border processing. This isn't a marketing trend, by the way. I'll be straight with you. It is a structural pivot. The whole industry is moving from cloud first to control first. And most boards haven't fully processed that yet. And the regulators, the EU AI Act puts AI and critical infrastructure in the highest risk category. GDPR Article 22, if I'm not mistaken, flat out bans fully automated decisions on individuals. NIS 2 raises the operational technology bar. New frameworks are leading in healthcare, finance, defense, and energy every quarter. So if you operate a hospital, a power grid, a pharma line, a rail network, a financial institution, you already know what I'm telling you. Sending your operational data on the external cloud isn't just a serious risk anymore. Increasingly, it's not even legal. And honestly, even where it still is, your customers, your regulators, your boards, they don't want you to do that. There's a second reason regulators care. They call it concentration risk. Imagine half of the hospitals in a country or half of the power grids relying on the same external cloud provider for critical decisions. One outage, one breach, one quiet update to the terms of service and the operational continuity of the entire country is sitting in someone else's hands. So when we sat down to design AIA Intelligence, sovereignty wasn't a value statement on a website. It was the legal and architectural requirement we built around it. Your data lives on your own infrastructure, your own environment. Your data is not used to train any model outside your company. It does not leave your premises, ever. And that's not a promise, that's the architecture. A promise can be removed. The privacy clause in the contract can be rewritten at the next renewal, for example. We didn't want any of that. We wanted a system where your data leaving was simply not possible, even if we wanted to be. I'll be direct about what this costs us, because it's more expensive to build, it's slower to ship, it's harder to demonstrate than something simpler, like a software. We did it anyway because there isn't a version of enterprise intelligence for the businesses that actually matter for now. The model you run is the model you own. You're not short on data. So sovereignty is the foundation. It's why AIA Intelligence can even run inside a serious business. But sovereignty isn't the problem we set out to solve. It's the constraint we build around. The actual problem is something every operator I talk to is already living with. Picture the operational reality of an international enterprise today. Maybe you operate a regional rail network, a pharmaceutical line, a global supply chain, a hospital group, a bank, a factory. You've got systems running everywhere. CRM, ERP, the control system on your factory floor, sensors on your equipment, cameras, contracts, calls, spreadsheets, every employee, every shift, every customer interaction. All of it is generating data every second, every day. You're not short on data. Nobody is. Your organization's actual behavior, the deep patterns of how things break, where the value leaks, where the same problem keeps resurfacing in the 3 different departments. Most of that stays hidden because you are reacting instead of predicting, because the data lives in 20 different systems that don't talk or interact with each other in any continuous way, because the patterns only show up if something can see across all of it at once. We spent 20 years installing systems that record what's happening in our businesses. We never built the layer that understands it. You have the data. What you don't have is institutional memory. That's the gap. In its raw, fragmented form, data is exhaust, generated, stored, never read again. It's the illusion of intelligence. You think your company knows things. And what your company actually has is 10 different systems, each holding one piece of the picture. Data only becomes valuable when it's clean, structured, connected, when the patterns inside it can actually be seen in real time while the business is still moving. That's the problem Intelligence is set out to solve by building the layer that takes the data you already own and turn into something the business can actually use. Your company isn't short on data. It's short on the way to use it. So if your data is fragmented across all those systems, what's the answer? It's actually a layer, like a blanket that sits above everything you already run. When I tell another founder we build AIA Intelligence beneath or above their stacks, the first reacting is usually a pause. Think about your stack: CRM, ERP, finance, operations, communications, project management, document system, maybe industrial control systems, maybe medical devices, maybe logistics networks spanning 3 continents. Each one is doing its job. We don't replace any of them. Your CRM stays your CRM. Your ERP stays your ERP. What changes is everything that happens between them. AIA Intelligence is the layer that observes across all of it. It captures the operational patterns. It cleans the data in real time. It structures the institutional knowledge. It builds the long-term memory of how your business actually runs. And it turns disconnected systems into one continuous intelligent environment. In practice, your team accesses it through your own software. We deploy an interface that lives inside your environment, a living entity. Your people log in through your SSO behind your firewall, governed by your IT, exactly the way they log into anything else you operate. So there's no new login service to manage or a new data residency question to answer. No new vendor in your risk review every quarter. The infrastructure you already trust, AIA Intelligence, works inside it. We didn't build another tool. We built the layer above. Now we get to the part most founders don't expect when I describe it the first time. The intelligence runs on hardware we install inside your building. A physical AI supercomputer powered by NVIDIA, sitting on your premises, connected to your network, owned by you. Stay with that for a second. All enterprise AI today is a subscription. You send your data out. A model in someone else's cloud processes it. An answer comes back. Your data went somewhere. Somebody else's GPU did the work. Somebody else's roadmap controls the tool. And somebody else's pricing decides what next quarter looks like. That model for sure doesn't work for the businesses that actually matter, for example, critical infrastructure. What we deploy is different. We install the compute, processing capacity sized for your operational load, configured for your environment, tuned for the volume of data your business actually generates. And we keep tuning it as the business grows. It runs your AI. It trains on your data. It holds your patterns, and it never leaves your building. This is a strategic shift, not a technical detail. No pair token surprise at the end of the quarter. When the compute is yours, the roadmap is yours, and the processing capacity matters more than people realize. Modern GPU compute can analyze pattern dimensions a human team simply cannot. Not just more data, different kinds of analysis. Cross-correlation across millions of operational events, anomaly detection across thousands of sensor channels in parallel, pattern recognition over years of contract history in seconds. A senior CEO with 30 years of experience can foresee a lot. I respect that experience deeply. I've sat across the table from people whose instinct is sharper than any dashboard I've ever seen. But it's still one human pattern matching against one's career's worth of memory. A supercomputer running across your full operational data sees patterns no individual is positioned to catch. Not because it's smarter, because it sees every system at once, continuously, all the time. Your senior judgment doesn't get replaced. It gets armed. The intuition stays human. The compute makes it sharper. The hardware is yours, and the intelligence runs where the data lives. There's a property of enterprise intelligence most leaders don't think about it until it bites them. Memory. Your CFO doesn't want to re-explain the chart of your accountants every Monday morning. Your operational lead doesn't want to re-establish how the company handles exception cases every time she opens a query. Your counsel doesn't want to reteach the system what your standard contract terms are every quarter. Memory matters, and here's where I want to be careful, because the word memory gets confused with something else. Persistence is not chat history. Chat history is what a user sees on a screen, a list of past conversations they can scroll through. Persistence is what the system retains, the institutional memory of how this company works. Who decides what? What last quarter's exception cases were, for example. What's already been argued, resolved, and shouldn't have to be argued again. Here's a question I ask every founder I talk to. What did your team teach the system that quarter that the system no longer remembers? Most companies cannot answer that actually. With AIA Intelligence, they can. And that answer matters because persistence is what makes intelligence compound. Every time your CFO refines an exception, the system learns from that interaction. And because the intelligence is sovereign and local, those nuances, company-specific patterns accumulate inside your walls. Isolated operational actions become permanent institutional memory. You're not renting intelligence from a vendor that forgets you the day your subscription ends. You're building an asset that increases your company's long-term valuation because the knowledge, the patterns nobody else has, the precedents your team built physically stays inside your walls. This is the design choice that took us the longest. We built persistence into the architecture before we built the surface. The persistence in AIA Intelligence isn't bottled on. It's a foundation. This is the principle I argued hardest with my team about. It's also the one I'm most certain we got right, because intelligence that forgets is just a more articulate stranger every morning. Persistence is what makes it yours. Now we get to the part I'd happily explain to your CTO over a whiteboard. Before I name the layers, I want to give you the picture that makes the architecture click. Imagine you have hired a brilliant consultant, genius level, capable of predicting outcomes weeks before your senior leaders would, with a very high certainty. But because the consultant is incredibly powerful, you don't let them roam free in the building, right? You build a glass room on the factory floor and you lock them inside it. Telemetry slides under the door, sensor readings, contract logs, operational data, read only. The consultant studies it, spots the pattern, slides a recommendation back. The consultant cannot reach out and press a button on the control panel. He cannot reroute the train, cannot approve a pharmaceutical batch. He cannot transfer money. A human operator standing outside the room reads the recommendation, verifies it, and physically executes the action. Decision advantage, zero autonomous risk. That's what AIA Intelligence is structurally. A glass room on your factory floor. The architecture inside this glass room has two layers. CIS, the corporate intelligence system. CIS governs what AIA can see. In what context, with which permissions. It carries no memory of its own. Its job is to make sure the consultant inside the room only ever sees what they are allowed to see. And then we have HIS, the human intelligence system, is what accumulates inside the room. The decisions, the exceptions, the precedents, every reasoning chain, every connection your team has made. This is where persistence lives and where it stays. HIS, the human intelligence system, is what accumulates inside the room. The decisions, the exceptions, the precedents, every reasoning chain, every connection your team has made. This is where persistence lives and where it stays. HIS is bound to your company. It does not leave. The question I always get is, why two layers? Why not one system that does everything? Because access and memory are different problems. When one system tries to do both, you end up with the architecture that's been at the center of every major data breach in the last 10 years. Separate them and the breach surface collapses. In practice, the glass room looks different depending on what your business needs. For defense and national grid operators, we deploy fully air-gapped. The glass room has no connection to the outside world at all. Updates get walked in on a hard drive. For water systems, rail networks, ports, anything where physical safety is on the line, we use one-way data diodes, laser optics, and physically prevent data from flowing back out. The laws of physics become your security protocol. For health, pharma, finance, telecom, sectors that need deeper integration but still demand sovereignty, we deploy in-operator, controlled private clouds. The classroom is still yours, governed by your own infrastructure. Let me put the promise in the language of the room you'd be presenting it in. Your CISO gets a parameter that's structural, not policy-based. Your CTO gets an institutional memory you can actually query. Your CFO gets a cost model that doesn't depend on someone else's roadmap. Your board gets a system they can audit. 2 layers, 1 architecture, yours. Here's something true about senior leaders you respect. The ones every founder eventually wants on their board. They share one thing. They see something coming before the rest of the room does. You remember this situation? They can't always explain how. Sometimes they just say, I've seen this before. That's what 30 years of pattern recognition actually looks like. It's powerful. It's also limited. Limited to what one career has happened to expose them to. Now think about your company today. Your customer success team is seeing churn signals 3 weeks before sales notice the dip. Your maintenance team is reading sensor patterns 2 weeks before equipment fails. Your finance lead is watching variance trends a quarter before operations can explain them. Your contracts team is surfacing risk language that won't hit legal's radar until the next renewal cycle. The signal is there. It's just spread across department systems and roles that don't talk to each other in any continuous way. This is where AIA Intelligence does what no individual can do. Because CIS, the corporate intelligence system, holds the connected memory across your company, and HIS, the human intelligence system, holds the role-specific intelligence for every position in your business. AIA Intelligence sees across all of it continuously in context. At a processing scale, your hardware was built to handle it, powered by very powerful NVIDIA chips. What that produces is foresight. Foresight here isn't a guess, it's a pattern recognition at the scale of your entire business. Instead of one career, the value compound in 3 layers. The first is operational quality. Less waste, higher yield, better margins. AIA Intelligence flags inefficiency that nobody on your team is positioned to catch and reduce it before it ever shows up in a quarterly review. The second is failure prediction. AIA Intelligence sees the breakdown coming before the breakdown happens. The equipment failure, the customer churn wave, the compliance issue, the contract risk. You're not patching after the loss. You are preventing it. Predictive foresight. The third is the compounding intelligence itself. This is the one most founders underestimate. Every decision your team makes, every override your senior expert applies, every refinement of a process, AIA Intelligence learns from that interaction inside your walls permanently. Your team doesn't just keep doing its job better. The system itself accumulates the deepest, most proprietary intelligence asset your company has ever owned. An asset that compounds based on HIS and CIS. An asset that increases your enterprise valuation every quarter you run it. Ever evolving. Your senior leader's judgment doesn't get replaced. It gets armed. The intuition is still theirs. The experience is still theirs. The decision is still theirs. AIA Intelligence is the part that catches the pattern nobody else is positioned to see and hands that signal back to the people who know what to do with it, basically. Connected data, cleaned and structured in real time, persistent across years, owned end-to-end, and running on your own hardware, inside your own walls. Very important. What comes out the other side is a smarter enterprise. Optimization, pattern recognition, predictive foresight, the whole business getting better at itself every quarter. You run it and you establish a competitive advantage to companies who don't use this technology. And now be aware of something. The signal was always there. Until now, nobody could connect it. If you're a founder, an operator, a board member, sitting on top of a serious business, and the conversation I just had hit something you've been thinking about since a while. that's the right starting point. We are not for everyone. We are built for the businesses where data leaving the perimeter isn't an option, where intelligence has to compound inside the company, and where the next 10 years of operational advantage will belong to whoever owns their own intelligence layer. If that's you, we should talk, because in 5 years, there will be only two companies: the company who rents intelligence and the company who owns it.